This election isn't going to be about changing parties. It's going to be about living for every other American. That's what gives me hope.
I don't want a nation just for me. I want a nation for everybody.
You can't walk away and not feel hope and not feel that glimmer of light again.
I don't think I was ever this interested in the voting process.
It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to be part of a movement such as this.
I'm going to get them back involved in this process. The grassroots level first, and then let it go. That's going to make me happy.
We're organizing ourselves. The campaign helps us. They're there to help us, but we're organizing ourselves.
It is the relationships that we have with one another that is our strength.
I think for a long time I had given up that we could work together to make change in this country.
So I've been involved in politics, I've seen politicians, but this is different.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no ordinary time. This is no ordinary election. And this may be our last chance to reclaim the America we love.
We are one people. We are one nation. And together we will begin the next great chapter in the American story with words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can.
This administration also puts forward a false choice between the liberties we cherish and the security we provide. I will provide our intelligence and law enforcement agencies with the tools they need to track and take out the terrorists without undermining our Constitution and our freedom. That means no more illegal wiretapping of American citizens. No more national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime. No more tracking citizens who do nothing more than protest a misguided war. No more ignoring the law when it is inconvenient. That is not who we are. And it's not what is necessary to defeat the terrorists. The FISA court works. The separation of powers works. Our Constitution works. We will again set an example for the world that the law is not subject to the whims of stubborn rulers and that justice is not arbitrary. This administration acts like violating civil liberties is the way to enhance our security. It is not. There are no shortcuts to protecting America.
When y'all go home and you're talking to your buddies and they say, he wants to take my gun away. You've heard it here. I'm on television, so everybody knows it. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in people's lawful right to bear arms. I will not take your shotgun away. I will not take your rifle away.
An objective analysis done by a nonpartisan group has shown that my tax cut would benefit middle-class families 3 times as much as John McCain's. So let me be clear, because you're going to start seeing ads. This is what happens every election season. They're going to say, he's a tax and spend liberal Democrat. He wants to get in your pocket. He's going to spend it on all kinds of crazy pork barrel project. You've seen the ads. They just replace the name each election cycle, but it's the same ad over and over again. So let me be absolutely clear. If you are a family making less than $250,000 a year, if you are a family making less than $250,000 a year, you will not see your taxes go up. Not your capital gains tax, not your payroll tax, not your income tax, No taxes. Your taxes will not go up. And by the way, unlike John McCain, I'll pay for my plan by cutting wasteful spending and shutting corporate loopholes and tax havens, rolling back the Bush tax cuts for some of the wealthiest Americans in the country.
$11 p.m. on the East Coast. We're back on the air, and we have news. There will be young children in the White House for the first time since the Kennedy generation. An African-American has broken the barrier as old as the Republic. An astonishing candidate, an astonishing campaign, a seismic shift in American politics. You are looking at the 44th President of the United States. The celebrations begin at 11 p.m. on election night. Let's listen to Grant Park in Chicago. We're still here. We're just watching along with you. Barack Obama did it. It looks like with 284, as of this hour, 284 electoral votes. He did it with the coalition you've been watching on the screen. Young voters, minorities, they're hearing our voices on the big screen along with them. If he is the new face of America, they are too, and he represents them. Tom.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer. It's the answer told by lines that stretched around schools and churches in numbers this nation has never seen, by people who waited 3 hours and 4 hours, many for the first time in their lives, because they believed that this time must be different, that their voices could be that difference. It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, disabled and not disabled, Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.
It's the answer that led those who've been told for so long by so many to be cynical and fearful and doubtful about what we can achieve, to put their hands on the arc of history and bend it once more toward the hope of a better day. It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
CNN Breaking News.
Got some breaking news into us here at CNN. We are getting word that the NSA has declassified documents about its surveillance program and also problems associated with it. Justice reporter Evan Perez joins me live in Washington. And Evan, you've been looking through this. What do these documents reveal?
Well, there are 3 court opinions, and all of them go back to 2011, when the NSA and the Justice Department went to the secret court that oversees surveillance and said, essentially, we screwed up. We've been collecting domestic communications, which is stuff that they're not supposed to be collecting, for 3 years. And part of it was because of the technology that we're using. Now, the NSA, as you know, is supposed to be looking at foreign communications, looking at stuff to make sure that terrorists don't get into the United States and carry out an attack. And so what happened was in 2011, the NSA went to the court and said, we screwed up. We've been collecting all this stuff that we weren't supposed to be collecting. The reason why was because, our computers essentially didn't know the difference between what was foreign and what was domestic, couldn't separate the two.
So that's their excuse. That's their reasoning behind it, the computers. This is the explanation from the government as far as why they're collecting the communications, and then I guess based upon what you just said, are they changing the way they do things?
Well, yes. At the time, the government decided that they were going to come up with new rules to try to figure out how to separate these types of communications. Now, this is very, very technical stuff. The NSA, this is extremely technical, which is why you see members of Congress sometimes don't understand what they're being told when they're being briefed, and sometimes they're very surprised when the government comes out and explains some of this stuff. So essentially what happens is every time you open your Gmail, for instance, and you get a picture of, a screen, of all your emails, let's say 10 emails. That is one transaction. And what was happening was the NSA was collecting, if there was one of those emails that had something to do with, let's say, an email that they were interested in. Let's say they were looking for someone in Yemen that they thought might be involved in something, related to terrorism. Then the NSA was collecting all of it. And that was where the problem occurred. The NSA says that they went ahead and fixed that, and so there was a new court opinion that was issued that approved what they were doing. And then there was another opinion that the court essentially approved of procedures when they decided that they had to delete 3 years worth of data because some of it they just could not separate.
So you're saying the NSA has fixed it. Is anyone making sure that the NSA has fixed it? Just
Well,
watchdog
I think the biggest problem here is that I think a lot of people are very suspicious of what the NSA is doing, period. The NSA is still doing a lot of this collection. They're just claiming that they're better at it now. They say now that while they're still making mistakes here and there, this big one that they had in 2011 is not the type that is being repeated. Again, it's very technical stuff. I apologize to the viewers who.
No, I think we get it loud and clear. You talk
Right.
Gmail, and I think a lot of people understand what you just went through.
Encroachments on privacy that are involved in getting phone numbers or duration without a name attached and not looking at content, that on net, it was worth us doing. Now, some other folks may have a different assessment of that. But I think it's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience. We're going to have to make some choices as a society. Here's what I think we should do. This week, I called on Congress to take up and pass common sense legislation that has the support of a majority of the American people, including banning the sale of military-style assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition clips.
The fiscal cliff debate is over, and most of those big tax hikes we were afraid of have been averted. That's the good news. The bad news, your taxes are still going up this month. As we've reported several times over the past week, the Social Security payroll tax break has expired as of yesterday. That means Social Security withholding will increase about $1,000 this year for the average worker. As a result, look for another $25 to $40 taken out of your paychecks, starting with next week's pay. So you're thinking you might
out of the blue.
I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming.
Those are being operated by somebody at a command center in Langley, Virginia. They're watching it on a video screen. They're pressing the button. They're deciding who lives and who dies. And then they go off for a weekend where they have barbecues in their suburban Virginia and suburban Maryland homes. And who pays the price? The people who are the victims of the attack. Is there accountability? None whatsoever.
Drones have become the symbol of America's undeclared wars. Wars that seem to have no state or legal boundaries.
We've opened up a new realm of warfare, a new realm of breaching international and domestic law.
Used in Pakistan, Yemen, and elsewhere, they have killed scores of civilians. The former chief counterinsurgency strategist for the U.S. State Department has estimated that drone attacks kill 50 non-targeted persons for each intended target.
One of the things the United States kind of pretends is that we are morally superior. We are better able to judge what is good for other people. And therefore we are entitled to inflict our judgment on them, and that we presume they will be grateful to us for it. But that is not what happens, ever. And it's not what's happening in Yemen. It's not what's happening in Pakistan. They are furiously enraged with us.
Oh my God! لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. علي بالله.
Taoiseach, I think it's important to take this opportunity to bring a bit of balance into the discussions around the visit of the US President and his wife, given the almost unprecedented slobbering over them that the nation has been exposed to over the last number of days. And it's really hard to know which is worse, whether it's the outpourings of the Obamas themselves or the sycophantic fawning over them by sections of the media and the political establishment. We've had separate and special news bulletins by the state broadcaster to tell us what Michelle Obama and her daughters had for lunch in Dublin, but very little questioning of the fact that she was having lunch with Mr. Tax Exile himself. We had very little challenging of the fact that she's glad to be home, a country that she's been in less than a week and that her husband has very tenuous links in. And of course, the biggest irony of all, the protestations of Obama himself in his speech to the children in Northern Ireland about peace, when he said, "Those who choose the path of peace, I promise you that the United States of America will support you every step of the way. We will be the wind at your back." Now I ask you, is this person going for the Hypocrite of the Century award? Because we have to call things by their right names. And the reality is that by any serious examination, this man is a war criminal. He has just announced his decision to supply arms to the Syrian opposition, including the jihadists, fueling the destabilisation of that region and continuing to undermine secularism and knock back conditions for women. This is the man who is in essence stalling the Geneva peace talks by trying to broker enhanced leverage for the Syrian opposition by giving them arms, and to hell with the thousands more who lose their lives, or the tens of thousands more who will be displaced as this war goes on. This is the man who has facilitated a 200% increase in the use of drones, which have killed thousands of people, including hundreds of children. And you, Taoiseach, you are the one who's turned a blind eye on these.
For nearly 2 years, the Assad regime has waged a brutal war against the Syrian people, murdering innocent men, women, and children in their homes, in breadlines, and at universities. In the face of this barbarism, the United States has joined with nations around the world in calling for an end to the Assad regime and a transition that leads to a peaceful, inclusive, and democratic Syria, where the rights of all Syrians are protected. We've worked to isolate Assad and his regime, impose sanctions that starve the regime of funds, recognize the Syrian opposition coalition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian people, call for accountability for perpetrators of atrocities, and provide humanitarian relief to Syrians in need. The relief we send doesn't say "Made in America," but make no mistake, our aid reflects the commitment of the American people. American aid means food and clean water for millions of Syrians. American aid means medicine and treatment for hundreds of thousands of patients in Damascus, Daraa, and Homs. It means immunizations for 1 million Syrian children. American aid means winter supplies for more than 500,000 people in Aleppo, Homs, and Deir Zur. And we're working with allies and partners so that this aid reaches those in need. Today, we're taking another step. I've approved an additional $155 million in humanitarian aid for people in Syria and refugees fleeing the violence. Here, I want to speak directly to the people of Syria. This new aid will mean more warm clothing for children and medicine for the elderly, flour and wheat for your families, and blankets, boots, and stoves for those huddled in damaged buildings. It will mean health care for victims of sexual violence and field hospitals for the wounded. Even as we work to end the violence against you, this aid will help address some of the immediate needs you face each day. This new commitment will bring America's total humanitarian aid to Syria to $365 million, making us the largest single donor of humanitarian assistance to the Syrian people. Today, I also call on the international community to do more to help these Syrians in need and to contribute to the latest UN humanitarian appeal. We're under no illusions. The days ahead will continue to be very difficult.
But what's clear is that the regime continues to weaken and lose control of territory. The opposition continues to grow stronger. More Syrians are standing up for their dignity. The Assad regime will come to an end. The Syrian people will have their chance to forge their own future, and they will continue to find a partner in the United States of America.
On one side, in Syria, there's a dictator slaughtering his own people. On the other side, a group that just swore loyalty to Al-Qaeda. So the civil war is a murderer versus a bunch of murderers. So the winner will be a murderer. The civil war just got very, very much more complicated, and we'll try to sort it out in a minute.
أحياك يا عبد السجار. راسم له قلب حب وكأنه.
أقسم بالله سوف نأكل من قلوبكم ومن كبودكم يا جنود بشار الكلب. تكبير. الله أكبر. يا أبطال بابا عمر. تطالع قلوبهم لأكلها.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Folks back in Washington are already floating the idea that they may use political stunts to prevent votes on any of these reforms. Think about that. They're not just saying they'll vote no on ideas that almost all Americans support. They're saying they'll do everything they can to even prevent any votes on these provisions. They're saying your opinion doesn't matter. And that's not right. That is not right. We need a vote. We need a vote. Now, I've also heard some in the Washington press suggest that what happens to gun violence legislation in Congress this week will either be a political victory or defeat for me. Connecticut, this is not about me. This is not about politics. This is about doing the right thing for all the families who are here that have been torn apart by gun violence. It's about them and all the families going forward so we can prevent this from happening again. That's what it's about.
And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Handguns do not enhance our safety. They exacerbate our flaws, tempt us to escalate arguments, and bait us into embracing confrontation rather than avoiding it. In the coming days, Javon Belcher's actions and their possible connection to football will be analyzed. Who knows? But here, wrote Jason Whitlock, is what I believe. If Javon Belcher didn't possess a gun, he and Cassandra Perkins would both be alive today. Attitudes that lead to tragedy.
I'm so sorry, but this is the problem with the gun debate, is that it's a constant center-right debate. There's no left in this debate. Everyone on the left is so afraid to say what should be said, which is the Second Amendment is bullshit.
Felt that, and then you've renounced that power. Why do so many people, do you think, associate the gun with somehow some form of self-esteem?
Well, first of all, we are guilty as Americans of promoting the gun.
Well, climbing food prices, one of the big effects we've been hearing so much about due to the drought in the heartland. You've probably noticed it too on some items already on your shopping list. Zach Tecklenburg is live now. Zach.
Milk and meat and eggs are already more expensive, and in 2013 you can expect those prices to go up by even 4% more than they were in 2012.
Your wallet is about to be hit again.
A $1 trillion tax hike over the next decade.
This really was sort of an across-the-board tax increase, not just on the rich, right? 77% of Americans are going to see their taxes go up.
Wouldn't see their income taxes go up by a single dime.
Will see any form of tax increase. You will not see your taxes increase one single dime.
You will not see your taxes go up.
You will not see your taxes increased a single dime.
Trio of new taxes linked to Obamacare.
Taxes are going to go up more, higher than what it was during Bill Clinton.
Wouldn't see their income taxes go up
5 new taxes go into effect today.
by a single dime.
If you checked your paycheck today, you might want to.
So they'll see less in their paycheck.
I thought there wasn't going to be a tax increase on everyone. Take-home pay will be a little less this year.
You know, that takes more out of my weekly check.
And middle-class families just can't afford that right now.
That is a reasonable proposition. So when you hear folks saying, well, you know, the president shouldn't want, you know, massive job-killing tax increases when the economy's this weak, nobody's looking to raise taxes right now. We're talking about potentially 2013 and the out years.
So the battle over Detroit, this is significant, not just for Detroit, but for so many other cities looking at bankruptcy across the country. Government leaders and city retirees get set to square off in federal court this week over what is owed to retirees after the city filed for bankruptcy. You imagine the tension these people now feel. Detroit's emergency manager saying that retirees' benefits will eventually have to be cut, and he's not expecting much help from the White House or
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to.
Cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity. That is why the greatest danger of all is to allow new walls to divide us from one another. The walls between old allies on either side of the Atlantic can.
Hitler has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. And so does the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the New World Order.
Pay particular attention to your luggage and personal belongings. Unattended luggage will be and personal belongings may be treated as a danger to the facility. Do not be persuaded by strangers or individuals you do not know well to take articles aboard your flight. You are also reminded that any inappropriate remarks or jokes concerning security may result in your arrest. We appreciate your cooperation while these measures are in effect.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So is it the owner?
We're tenants on the second floor.
This is your friend?
Yes.
These two people?
Yes.
What's your name?
Carolyn. Carolyn. Olyn.
Last name?
Albert. Albert.
Ma'am?
Bridget McDonough.
Bridget McDonough?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna step on where that was.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. So you get to pat him down on the way out and make sure they didn't take our shit?
Do you receipt for anything they did right now? Is that upstairs service?
Yes.
They totally got gypped on the whole balcony deal, didn't they? What?
They're probably trying to figure out how to get on the first floor.
Back inside the house, answer the door, we knock on it, please.
Crap, man. Wow. They're like, men with machine guns coming towards us. Dude in turret with gun. I'm filming. I'm not gonna stop filming. This is intense.
Close your window, go back inside your house, answer the door.
I am.
To use this type of high technology to go after bad guys is fine. He doesn't obviously want it used recklessly on individuals, but he seemed to draw the line that to the degree you could track down bad guys, and we have that technology, I think I've got the gist of what he said. Have at it. What do you make of that?
Yeah, when the courts approve, that's fine, but it was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there, FBI and all these agents coming in, closing things down, going to people's houses. No, technology is fine, but it has to be guarded. And if there's a question, you guard liberty before you say, well, if we catch a bad guy, that is good. You don't give up liberty for 9 people because you might find one person. So I'd be very, very cautious about that. And I would get, the federal government is not supposed to be our police force. force. Yeah, we have over 100,000 federal officials who carry guns to enforce these laws, and they own Boston. It's criminal that that people tolerated this so much, that we tolerated this martial law and total acceptance that they can come into our houses and we can't even go out of the house. You know, what if we wanted to go to the store and get a oh no, you can't do that. And yet, you know, yes, it was serious. It was a crisis. There were 3 people killed. But, you know, we have 48 murders every single day. There's a lot of murderers out there. Do we close down cities because there's 10 murders over the weekend in Chicago? We don't do that. But here we close down a whole city, not even allowed to go to a baseball game. I mean, I think it's very, very scary when I look at some of those pictures that happen up in Boston.
Ron Paul, you make people think. Thank you very much. Good seeing you. Hearing you.
Big 4th of July celebrations as people mark the holiday across the country today, but all those crowds mean something else: tightened security. ABC's Rob Nelson is in Boston with the story. Good morning, Rob.
Well, good morning, Dan. This July 4th is actually the first major U.S. holiday since the Boston bombings back in April, which means today we'll see not only the best of American pride, but also the best of American security. From concert rehearsals in the nation's capital to fireworks show preparations in the Nevada desert, the country today is getting ready to throw its annual red, white, and blue birthday bash. But it's a celebration mixed with caution from coast to coast.
Significant dates are always a concern to us.
Just 2.5 months after the marathon bombings, no other city is as on guard this year as Boston, where law enforcement has significantly beefed up security and put new restrictions in place for the city's waterfront activities. The accused bombers had initially planned to carry out their plot on this very day.
We're doing everything humanly possible to make sure it doesn't happen again.
More police presence, higher visibility, and increased video surveillance.
Some of these enhancements the public will see, and some of them you won't see.
Federal officials say there has been no specific threat of an attack today, but officials from Los Angeles to Florida to Indianapolis are leaving nothing to chance. Over 1,300 law enforcement personnel took over downtown Los Angeles in a major high-visibility drill in advance of the national holiday. Philadelphia increases security around the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall. And in New York City, more manpower on the streets, while visitors to the Statue of Liberty, which reopens today, will be screened before boarding ferries.
I feel safe just because what is there to think about? Are you going to be afraid living your life? I have more chance getting hit in crossing the street.
Bostonians are getting used to some new restrictions this July 4th, but the advice here is the same as throughout the country. If you see something, say something.
Well, some lawmakers want to know why the Department of Homeland Security is apparently on a huge ammo buying spree. This is a just-placed order for more than 300,000 bullets, just the latest in a series of contracts that could add up to more than 1.5 billion rounds of ammo over the next 5 years. Critics say that's enough bullets to supply the equivalent of the Iraq War for 24 years, and they want to know why.
Pretty cool, huh? Crazy. Are we going to war? It looks like it, doesn't it? It's got to be over 100 on that. I think it's taking 3 inches. Yes. Insane. It's not ending.
Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner. You should reject these voices, because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham with which we can't be trusted. We have never been a people who place all of our faith in government to solve our problems. We shouldn't want to. But we don't think the government is the source of all our problems either, because we understand that this democracy is ours. And as citizens, we understand that it's not about what America can do for us, it's about what can be done by us together.